Welcome and happy Monday after Thanksgiving. I hope everybody had a good, I'm sure, unusual Thanksgiving. My name is Laura Huffman. I'm the president and CEO of the Greater Austin Chamber of Commerce. And welcome. You're in for a real treat today about the future of mobility in Austin and our region. It's been a year, hadn't it, right? We have worked our hearts out this year, making sure that you've got access to all kinds of content. We've had over 10,000 chamber members join us for nearly 50 webinars since March of this year. We've been busy at work with Opportunity Austin. In fact, this is shaping up to be one of the very best years we've ever had with Opportunity Austin. So from an economic development standpoint, even though it was a rough year in some ways, we've had some really big wins. Of course, Tesla is one of those wins. The jobs and the types of jobs that they're bringing to our region are going to be incredible. I think, in fact, we will all look back just a few years from now and watch how that decision has transformed our economy. We've got a lot of incredible speakers lined up today, and I want to get us right to it. But before we start, what I'd like to do is recognize our partners, and I want to say a few words before we do that. Those of you that continue to sponsor webinars mean the world to us and to all chamber members. Our ability to put out good content like this mobility webinar is critical. I think we're all craving getting together in person again, but in the meantime, we still need access to information. And so today is just yet another example of how we do that. And I would like to thank our pivotal partners, which are Amazon, Ascension Seton, Amco, Wells Fargo. Thank you also to our 2020 foundational partners who are listed on the screen here. All wonderful partners of the Chamber, and also our 2020 corporate partners. And in particular today, I want to thank our event sponsors who have made this webinar possible. Our presenting sponsor is HDR. Our downtown sponsor is Austin Downtown Alliance. Our policy sponsor is HNTB. And to our transit sponsor, Capital Metro, thank you. Thanks also to our speaker sponsor, Jacobs, and to our panel sponsor, Texas Gas Service. And I'd also like to thank our corporate sponsor, Pape Dawson Engineers, and our supporting sponsors, Lock Lord and Texas Mutual Insurance. Of course, our media partner, KView. Thanks a bunch for all the support you've given us over the year. We held this particular webinar till after the elections. Now that Project Connect has passed, there's plenty for us to talk about. The speakers are enthusiastic about the many projects that we're going to see across the mobility front in this region. So let's take a quick look at a video and then we'll get into the programming. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us today for this important program. My name is Mark Bornstein, and I am Vice President and the Central Texas Area Manager with HDR. HDR is a global architecture and engineering firm founded over 100 years ago. We are one of the top 10 largest employee-owned companies in the United States, with over 10,000 employees in 225 offices across the globe. Here in Central Texas, we have over 300 employees serving our local communities. At HDR, we are passionate about making impactful and positive changes in our community. We strive to improve the quality of life for Central Texans throughout our work. Our portfolio in Central Texas includes diverse projects delivering multimodal transportation solutions that bring creativity and innovation to address our mobility challenges. Solutions that keep technology advancements, the environment, and social issues all in mind. These projects include the State Highway 130 Toll Road Project, the Pfluger Bridge pedestrian bridge, Mopac Bike Bridge, and the Manor Expressway direct connectors. We are currently working on major community projects, including the City of Austin Corridor Program, the Loop 360 program, Central Texas Turnpike System, and we are planning for the future with the Capital Metro Project Connect and the I-35 Central. Each are bringing 21st century solutions and diverse partnerships to our mobility challenges. We have a phenomenal slate of speakers joining us today. And now I'd like to introduce Chamber Board Chair, Judge Enoch, to tell us more about the Chamber's accomplishments this year and what else they're working on right now. Judge?
Hey, Mark, thank you very much. And we very much appreciate the support of HDR, but I think everybody in Austin very much appreciates the expertise that HDR brings to our transportation multimodal projects that are going on. In this past election, we've had what? $450 million on top of $7.5 billion being dedicated by the citizens of Austin to transportation projects. So we are into the big time of reimagining, redesigning, reinstalling, adding new transportation methods for our citizens here. Hi, I'm Craig Enoch, and I'm chair this year of the board of directors of the Greater Austin Chamber of Commerce. I can't tell you how proud I am of the staff at the Chamber and the work of the Chamber, that during a time we could not have even imagined with the pandemic, that the Chamber has continued to achieve great success. Prosperity is our mission, and our mission is to create opportunities to help people live, work, and thrive in Austin. As Laura said, 2020 has been a record-breaking year for job announcements from our Opportunity Austin affiliate, proving that even in the middle of the pandemic, folks from all over the country recognize Texas' business-friendly environment. Even in 2020, we were helping people thrive, especially when it comes to building up our regional transportation options. Just this year, as Linda mentioned, Tesla announced it would be building its Gigafactory in Del Valley community. This project alone will create 5,000 jobs in our region, jobs that help build on our already successful manufacturing industry, and jobs that will give people the opportunity to gain new skill sets and find careers for themselves. We're excited to have Tesla with us today to talk more about that. And earlier, our board voted to endorse the Project Connect. It was overwhelmingly passed by the citizens of Austin, and we're excited about moving forward and helping implement that project, which will make our community better. And we're finally able to secure funding for an expansion of I-35, which will improve the way we move people, goods, and services across our community and help us resolve some of that horrid traffic congestion we've always been facing about 5 o'clock coming right through the center of town. The Chamber is committed to working with the business community to continue improving our region so we can keep attracting companies and talent to Austin. It's now my pleasure to introduce Mayor Steve Adler to provide us with some insight into the city's perspective on proposed changes to our traffic flow patterns. And just a point of privilege, I think this mayor has been as active as anybody on improving transportation, adding to the multimodal method of transportation in the city, safe streets, and making this a great place to live downtown. Mayor Adler, I'll call on you.
Judge Enoch, thank you. I want to thank the Chamber as well. There has not been any movement, advancement in a real significant way in this city, but for the projects that have had the push and the endorsement of the Chamber, and there's a reason for that. Big projects that make for big changes in cities require the city to come together, and that requires the involvement of our economic engine. Thanks for everything you did this year, working with Project Connect, leading up to that endorsement. Thank you for the work the Chamber does other than that. On a related topic, transportation, I noticed that you have Tesla, Rohan Patel speaking, a friend of mine going back probably 7 years now. Just as an aside, I'll mention that at the height of the pandemic, early, I was contacted that the CEO of Tesla wanted to visit and talk. And we were hoping to do it in a place where people wouldn't see us getting together. Really the best choice seemed to be in my home. To invite Judge Biscoe to join us. That was the first time that Diane and I had that kind of contact outside of our bubble. But some things are just so important for the future of the city. It was an exciting opportunity to be part of that. But in our city, we've met in the past with the chamber talking about future plans for mobility. This is the time when we have now put all the pieces in place and we are executing. And that's real exciting. It's exciting because even though we've had the pandemic and we've taken people off the road, traffic is already returning to pre-pandemic levels, and it's only going to get worse as we continue to grow. You can still now, today, be stuck on I-35 on any given Sunday. So it's fortunate that we have not taken our foot off the pedal for the major work to tackle traffic and safety. We're seeing right now the early out projects for the 2016 mobility bond. This is the corridor work. We've done the sidewalk work and a lot of the smaller work, but now we're moving forward with the corridor work. We're going to reduce delays on those major corridors. We're taking the action to reduce crashes. We're about to have big changes coming really soon to North and South Lamar and Burnett Road and many of our others. Again, thanks for the voters' support. Overwhelming for propositions A and B. Project Connect. People's eyes light up when you talk about having new light rail connecting North and South Austin, going out to the airport, going downtown, underground, reaching out with new lines and frequency to East Austin, mobility challenged areas like Colony Park, all electric bus fleets and more rapid transit. It's going to help us with traffic, with climate change, with mobility equity for essential workers, with affordable housing. I want to really appreciate Chairman Bug, who's with us today to talk about the IH 35, a project long time in coming. Between those two projects, Project Connect and I-35, we're talking about over $15 billion committed now. Within the last year. I'm real excited. I hope that someday we have that as dynamically managed lanes in our city so that transit can always be moving at 45 miles an hour and help us with mode shift in the city. Taking it, thank you TxDOT for taking the main lanes below grade through downtown. An opportunity to reconnect the broken surface street grid. Frontage roads that are safer for everybody. City's doing its part with all those things, plus the Austin Strategic Mobility Plan. Remember, our goal right now by 2039 is to move away from where we are today, where over 70% of people commuting downtown are doing it alone in their cars, but to provide options that are compelling and cheaper and faster and better so that we can get a mode shift to bring it down to 50% in that period of time, which is going to be required of us if we want to actually be able to use any of our surface roads. Making great headway on reducing traffic deaths and injuries. We have a lot of work to do. We're going to need some federal assistance. Along with mayors across the country. We're looking forward to working with the new president, Biden, and his administration on infrastructure. I've had the opportunity to be spending some time with people in the transition work with the president-elect's office. I know it's a priority. And I'm excited to see what that would bring to us. This is a great time to be involved with mobility because we're moving from planning to execution. We're about to get some generational and transformative work done. Thanks to the Chamber, this would not be happening without you.
Mayor Adler, thanks so much for being here. We really appreciate it. We know how hard you, City Council members, and everyone has worked to make all of this a reality, and the folks at the Chamber as well. It's really kind of exciting to see how well our city has done through this pandemic, and also to know that we're moving forward with some of these transportation projects, which will hopefully make our our city better than ever, which is awesome. So thank you for being here. We appreciate it. At this time, I would like to invite Michelle Dipple. She is Vice President, Central and South Texas Office Leader for HNTB. She's going to introduce our keynote speaker, and she is pretty remarkable in and of herself. Grew up here in Austin, has been an environmental planner for 20 years, and you'll have to ask her at some point about her amazing charitable organization that she heads up, because it's really inspiring. Michelle?
Thanks, Terry. I appreciate that introduction. It's really great to be here with everybody. As Terry said, I'm with HNTB Corporation. We are a 106-year-old mobility infrastructure firm with a history that goes back in Central Texas all the way to the 1900s with our design and construction of the Congress Avenue Bridge, which we're very proud of and talk about at every opportunity. I'm super honored to work locally with our government and agency partners to deliver some of the most complex mobility solutions. And man, what an exciting time to be in mobility here in Central Texas. It's just amazing and exciting. I can't say enough about it. It's my pleasure to introduce Rohan Patel, Senior Global Director with Tesla, Public Policy and Business Development. Rohan is joining us today to give us updates on the new Gigafactory. Welcome, Rohan.
Thank you, Michelle. Really great to be here. Thanks for all of your leadership in the Austin region. Thanks to the Chamber and Judge Enoch. I have to say the even during this really difficult time for the country and for the globe, the welcoming that we've gotten from the overwhelming really reception in Texas, in Central Texas, in Travis County, it's just been fantastic. Feels great to be a part of it. Feels great to engage and I guess I'd say a couple things. One is we're just raring to go. I mean, we've got over 100 openings at the Gigafactory. If you drive by there on 130, you'll see lots of activity, lots of building that's going on, and we're laser focused on building out that core production and construction leadership that's needed to make this a success. And I think that the conversation that's happening here today is just indicative of why we chose this particular location in the Del Valley School District. The mobility, regional mobility, it's on the minds of folks in Austin, obviously to solve traffic issues, but also in terms of the technology that's at play. And the region has become a hub for technology, for software technology, for engineering technology, for development of that talent. And I think with Tesla coming to the region, we'll see an advancement of and an ecosystem around automotive and clean energy technology that we can hopefully help bolster. Really bullish on that. But how do we do that? And there's a couple of things that we really focus on in terms of workforce development programs. One is the high school graduate pathway, the manufacturing development program. And that's something we've done, whether it's in automation, in robotics, in a number of different engineering disciplines. We have a need for a large number of people in that realm. The other thing that we are doing is taking the Tesla Start program, which is a program that partners with community colleges. We've partnered, in fact, even in Texas, in Waco, but all over the country, and creates a pipeline for trained talent that's ready to hit the ground running. We've had great conversation with Dr. Rhodes and others. Appreciate the facilitation from the Workforce Commission, Aaron Demerson and crew, the governor's office, the mayor's office. As I said before, the partnership amongst all levels and an ability to help us find ways to do this kind of workforce development has been excellent. Another thing that we are going to be doing is K through 12 investment. And part of, frankly, one of the biggest reasons we chose this site is the availability of talent across all levels. And so we couldn't be more excited about that. In other places where we've had gigafactories go up in Nevada, in our Fremont facility, our main manufacturing facility, we've really spent a lot of time, both in terms of getting our own employees to partner with high schools, but also partnering on robotics, after school learning, curriculum development, all of these things incredibly important to really accelerating the growth of sustainable energy across the spectrum. That's in effect, that is our goal. That's exactly what we're trying to do. And I think that's very, very well aligned with what the Chamber and other businesses in the region are trying to do as well, which is we have an obligation to future generations. We have an obligation to ourselves to clean up the air that we breathe, to get the best, highest performing, safest transport methods out there. And that also includes autonomous and full self-driving type of technology. And we'll certainly be expanding that as we move forward as well. So couldn't be more excited to be here. Michelle, thank you so much. And thanks to the Chamber for allowing me to have a few minutes here. Thanks again.
Rohan Patel, thanks so much. As a mom, I'm super excited to hear about you partnering with schools. My kids are really into that whole robotics curriculum. And so I think it's really exciting for those of us who have children to know that we're going to get to learn from you all. And what a great asset you are to our community, and how lucky we are that you're bringing this Gigafactory here. We're excited to see what happens as we move forward. Thanks so much for being here. Now I'd like to welcome Kevin Young, Division Vice President for Central Texas Operations Manager for Jacobs Engineering. Kevin, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Terry. Jacobs, we challenge today and reinvent tomorrow, from our built environments to missions to Mars. Closer to home, we partner with agencies across Texas to help solve some of our biggest transportation challenges. We especially appreciate working with the Texas Department of Transportation on the Mobility 35 program right here in Austin. And speaking of TxDOT, it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Bruce Bugg. Bruce is chairman of the Texas Transportation Commission, which oversees statewide activities of TxDOT. And he was appointed and confirmed by the Texas State Senate in 2015 for a 6-year term. He joins us today to provide an update on the major roadway construction projects, either underway or upcoming, that will create congestion relief for our region.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation to join you today. It's great to be here and get to talk to you. I wish it were in person, but that will have to wait. We're all adjusting and trying new things as we continue the business of moving people and products across Texas while keeping each other safe. We may be meeting virtually, but it's good to be among Texans about our state and work hard to serve the people of Texas. I am honored to be appointed by Governor Greg Abbott as the chairman of the Texas Transportation Commission, which, as you know, oversees TxDOT. These are historic times for our state's transportation network because it's how vital products like medical supplies and groceries get to those who need them. And that wouldn't be possible without the 12,000 men and women who work at TxDOT. I applaud their work every day. They build and maintain our roads. They operate and work with our ferries. They have general aviation, ports, and transit. We owe them our thanks, and particularly the TxDOT Austin District, led by Tucker Ferguson. It's been my pleasure to serve on the Transportation Commission for now more than 5 years, 3 of those years as chairman. My policy as chairman has been to, and continues to be, execute, to focus on the most effective and efficient ways to move transportation projects forward, both urban and rural, and use taxpayer dollars to get roads built where they're needed and when they're needed. Taxpayers expect it, and that's what we're going to do. One way we're going to do that is that through the Commission's Congestion Relief Initiative, Texas Clear Lanes, which I have led since 2015. I'll talk more about that later, specifically as it relates to the Austin region in a moment. But first, I want to talk about how TxDOT is handling the most pressing issue for our state, for the world, and right now that's COVID-19 pandemic. As is happening to many organizations across Texas and the world, TxDOT's office employees are teleworking and still taking care of business of Texas. Our frontline employees who work on our roads are also hard at work. In fact, they have been working on our roads the entire time. We're just taking extra precautions to keep them and the public safe. Like the rest of us, they're practicing the 3 W's, washing their hands, wearing face coverings, and watching their distance. We may have changed the way we do business, but we're still very much in business. Projects that were under construction remain under construction. Roads that need to be maintained are being maintained. Ferries are still operating. We're still assisting general aviation airports in transit operations. We're still promoting the intermodal connectivity of Texas ports and waterways, and we're still supporting rail transportation throughout Texas, and TxDOT is still meeting the mission of connecting you with Texas. In fact, today, we have more than $24 billion worth of construction and maintenance projects underway in the state, the largest in our state's history. This past fiscal year alone, we let or approved a contract more than $7 billion in contracts, putting precious taxpayer dollars to good use, building and improving our transportation system. This may be a good time to review TxDOT's main funding sources. The traditional state highway fund is composed of state motor vehicle fuels tax and vehicle registration fees. Sales gas tax currently is 20 cents per gallon. We're augmented by a federal fuel tax, which is assessed at 18.4 cents per gallon. In 2014 and 2015, Texans made some additional revenue streams available dedicated for transportation funding from less traditional sources, including portions of oil and gas severance taxes and sales and use taxes. In fact, historically, 97% of TxDOT's state funds are constitutionally dedicated to fund project development and delivery of highway construction and maintenance projects for the public. That is not surprising, since 93% of Texans rely on a personal truck or car as their primary means of transportation. Since joining the commission, I have worked hard with our Texas congressional delegation to receive more federal funding for public transit in the state. As many of you know, most of the federal funding for transit is stuck in the Northeast Corridor and Illinois. Both areas are declining in population. I will continue to visit our Texas congressional delegation in Washington, D.C., and talk about the importance of federal transit dollars to Texas. I wanted to give you a primer on transportation funding to set up a discussion about how we plan to use these dollars. The Unified Transportation Program, or UTP as we call it, is TxDOT's 10-year plan that guides transportation development across the state. It looks at the funding that is reasonably expected to be available over that 10-year window and plan how to distribution that funding. Because the funding picture changes, the UTP changes and is updated every year. Projects that are completed flow out, new projects that are being developed flow in, and existing projects are updated to reflect funding that's available. To be clear, the UTP is neither a budget nor a guarantee that TxDOT will be able to fund and build every project in it. It is a planning document, an important one, that TxDOT and our local and regional planning partners use to make the best use of the funding that's available. As I mentioned before, the UTP is updated every year. This past August, the Texas Transportation Commission unanimously adopted a $74.7 billion unified transportation program for 2021. Nearly 17% of the funding in the 2021 UTP is being distributed to the department's rural districts, 19% to its urban districts, and nearly 48% to our metro districts, including Austin, those areas of the state with the largest populations. That is funding that will improve our metro and urban corridors, develop corridors that serve and connect regions for the benefit of the entire state, ease congestion for drivers, and build projects that shore up our energy sector, or as I call it, the Permian Promise. As it relates to this region, the 2021 UTP includes $7.1 billion in funding for the Austin District. And let me take a moment to thank my fellow commissioners, Laura Ryan, Alvin New, and Robbie Vaughn, for their unanimous support of the 2021 UTP. Some of the funding for the Austin District is for projects that are part of the Texas Clear Lanes initiative that I mentioned earlier. Texas Clear Lanes is our statewide strategic plan to provide congestion relief through non-toll projects and is focused in the Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, and San Antonio regions. These major metros represent 67% of the Texas population. Clearly, these are areas of the state that need congestion relief, and we're addressing that relief. The 2021 UTP includes a total of $26 billion for addressing congestion in the state's 5 major metropolitan areas and other congested areas in Texas over the next 10 years, including Austin. Now, let me speak about Austin specifically. Since the Texas Clear Lanes Initiative began, the Austin District has completed 3 projects, all on I-35, totaling $71 million in construction costs. The new roundabout at the southwest and southbound frontage road of the Interstate and 51st Street, the reconstructed interchange at I-35 in Altdorf, the upgrades to our transportation management system from Bell County to the Comal County line. Another $836 million in Clear Lanes projects are under construction, including 2 projects on I-35, one from Runberg Lane to US 290 East, and the other a new diverging diamond intersection that's being built at Palmer. Both those projects should wrap up next year. A third project on US 183 will add auxiliary lanes between Metric Boulevard and I-35. That project is slated to be completed this year. And a fourth project, the Y at Oak Hill. I would like to speak specifically about a major project called I-35 Capital Express here in Austin. In the 2021 UTP, we're going to focus our attention on a series of projects that garner a lot of attention in Austin, and that is the I-35 Capital Express program. These projects in that program will not only ease congestion on one of the most traveled roads in the state, I-35, but they'll improve mobility and safety. As you know, the Capital Express program is made up of 3 standalone projects. The North project proposes to add 1 non-toll managed lane in each direction from State Highway 45 North to 290 East. The Central project picks up from 290 East and would add 2 non-tolled managed lanes in each direction to State Highway 71 or Ben White Boulevard. And the last project, the Southern project, would extend Ben White to SH 45 Southeast, adding 2 non-toll lanes in each direction. The Capital Express program isn't just about adding lanes, it's also about improving mobility. Extended entrance and exit ramps and improved frontage roads and bicycle and pedestrian paths will also be included in these projects. Public input has been and will continue to be crucial to improving I-35 through the area. Public hearings for the North and South projects will be heard early next year, and we'll host a virtual public scoping meeting for the Central project starting November 12th through December 12th. All total, the 2021 UTP dedicates nearly $743 million in Texas Clear Lanes funds to the Capital Express program, 45 North to 45 South. This is an investment we need to make and must make. Reducing congestion in our metro areas is an ambitious task, but we're committed to following Governor Greg Abbott's direction to reduce congestion statewide. In conclusion, as we head into the 87th legislative session in January, we'll be managing new conditions and facing new challenges. We don't yet know how these conditions may affect our agency, but we do know we won't sacrifice safety or production. TxDOT is committed to giving Texas our best service. Thank you for inviting me to be with you today. I look forward to the time when we can meet again in person. Until then, please stay safe.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. I know a lot of us excited about these projects, in particular the fact that there are $24 billion worth of projects underway right now. That's pretty awesome, considering a lot of us are working from home, so we don't have to deal with a lot of that mess. But I think the bigger issues maybe that most people are excited to hear about is Texas Clear Lanes strategic plan and the Capital Express project, both which will focus on those non-toll lanes and provide direct relief here in the capital city. You can find more details on all of these projects at www.texdot.gov. And so be sure to check that out if you have any other questions. Now I'd like you to join me in welcoming Larry Graham, Manager of Community Relations with Texas Gas. He's going to lead us into our next section, which will address the impacts of the voter-approved Project Connect plan from Capital Metro. Larry?
Thanks, Terry. I appreciate it. Again, Larry Graham with Texas Gas Service. We are proud to distribute natural gas to 240,000 customers in Austin and over 700,000 customers across the state of Texas. As Terry mentioned, the next portion of today's event focuses on the economic impact of the recent voter-approved transportation bond that includes funding for Cap Metro's Project Connect. We will hear from Nuria Fernandez. She's with VTA in Silicon Valley, and she's going to talk about federal funding, followed by Jerry Sweeney of Brandywine Realty, who will discuss housing and development along transit corridors. And finally, we'll be joined by my friend Randy Clark from Cap Metro, who will focus his discussion around Project Connect's impact on businesses. Our first speaker on this topic joins us from the Santa Clara Valley Transportation Authority, which is an independent special district that provides sustainable, accessible, community-focused transportation options for more than 2 million people who live and work in Silicon Valley. Nuria Fernandez serves as the general manager for VTA and is responsible for 2,100 employees, delivering projects, programs, and transit services that provide mobility solutions to a region. Please welcome Ms. Fernandez.
Thank you very much, Larry. It's good to see you. Congratulations, City of Austin, on taking your transportation future into your own hands. You know, I recently had the pleasure of facilitating a discussion on outcomes of transportation ballot measures just a few days after the November general election. Mayor Steve Adler was on the panel, beaming with pride as he reported on the successful passage of Austin's Propositions A and B. It really feels good when it all falls in place. In Santa Clara County, California, we're extremely fortunate to have the same support from our voters. Understand that infrastructure improvements are critical to mobility. The voters also understand that they're necessary for our communities, our economy, and our environment to thrive. November 3rd this year, voters in 3 San Francisco Bay Area counties, including Santa Clara, passed an important measure to keep one of our vital regional commuter train services operating, by approving a sales tax that will fund a service with a desperately needed $108 million a year for the next 30 years. I know that Austin's Project Connect is very much like some of the initiatives my organization has undertaken to build our network of mass transit and help to provide not only much needed housing, but much needed affordable housing with our transit-oriented development program. So these are the type of projects that perhaps are more important than ever as we face historically difficult times. Because, you know, the impacts of the pandemic have been devastating on businesses, families, and transit agencies alike. By improving mobility for our communities, we keep the economic engines running. It gets our essential workers to jobs and gives us the alternatives we need to reduce our impact on the environment. So how gratifying it is to see that our residents value safe, reliable transit in their communities. I understand there was a question of how strong the opportunity is for federal funding for a program like this. And federal funding is out there, and my agency at the Valley Transportation Authority is living proof of that. VTA secured nearly $1 billion in federal funding to build a 10-mile extension of the BART to Silicon Valley system that is now in operation. And just last year, the Federal Transit Administration allocated $125 million expedited federal funding to build the second phase of the heavy rail project, which would extend 6 miles further into the cities of San Jose and Santa Clara. Locally, we still have a responsibility to pay our fair share. Let me try to explain this, and I will use our VTA's BART extension as an example. The Federal Transit Administration funds transit projects normally through its Capital Investment Grant Program. And we refer to those grants as CIG, which are discretionary and competitive. These federal grants require a local match, almost without exception. And I will get to more about that in a moment. There are 2 avenues to secure that funding. One is the New Starts process, which applies to projects that are estimated at over $300 million, or where the funding request is over $100 million. For our BART Phase 1 project, we secured $900 million in federal funds, but we had to meet a condition of matching those funds locally. Voters in Santa Clara County in 2000 and in 2008 supported tax measures not only build the extension, but also to operate and maintain the system once it was in service. The path to federal funding for these kinds of projects is a small SNARTS process, that's another one, for projects under 300 million and where the funding request is less than 100 million. So these are multi-year, multi-step processes grantees must follow to receive the funds. Those steps include things like environmental clearance, engineering, grant agreement, permitting, the construction. Through these programs, the Federal Transit Administration has appropriated $2.3 billion a year over the last 5 years for rail and bus rapid transit projects throughout the country. The federal contribution for the New Start SIG or CIG is capped at 75% of project cost. Of course, if you request lower share than 75%, it makes your project more competitive. So where does the rest of the funding come from? That is where state and local funding comes in. And ultimately, that includes local sales tax measures, as in Santa Clara County's case, or in Austin's case, property tax revenues. The good news is that voters are supporting these measures overwhelmingly across the country. I saw that your Proposition A passed with a great majority, and Proposition B for other transportation improvements passed with close to 2/3 approval. So no wonder Mayor Adler was so proud. When local areas are willing to put up some of their funding, the federal government is more likely to want to invest. As the current chair of the American Public Transportation Association, I'm heavily involved in the efforts our association is making to push for greater federal support. Right now, in addition to focusing on our future, we are aggressively advocating for more emergency funding to help keep transit agencies operating through the devastating effects of the pandemic. We know public transit will have a friend in the White House come January. President-elect Biden has been a tireless champion for public transit and passenger rail over his many years of public service. APTA has already met with his transition team, and we're hopeful about achieving our goals and working closely with the new administration, because bipartisanship is going to be key. We'll continue to rely on the business community for support to let Congress know how critical it is to fund public transportation. I know we have strong support in our corner, and our communities have shown us that they want and need a reliable and modern public transportation system. It plays an essential and powerful role in the economic livelihood of any city. What a great city Austin is, and it will be an even greater city thanks to your Project Connect. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of this panel. So joining us next is Jerry Sweeney, President, CEO, and Trustee of Brandywine Realty. Mr. Sweeney has served as president and CEO since the company's founding in 1994, and under his leadership, Brandywine has grown into one of the largest publicly traded real estate companies in the United States, with a core focus on urban, town center, and transit-oriented development in Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., and Austin markets. So, Jerry, I yield the screen to you.
Nuria, thank you very much, and thank you for the very kind introduction. As Nori mentioned, Brandywine is a publicly held company. We are based up here in the Philadelphia marketplace, but have a very large platform in Austin, Texas. And I do agree, Austin is a great place to be and to do business. I have a few slides I'll walk you through very quickly. So really on the first slide, just to frame it out, the slide after this really focuses on, we are big believers in the power of mass transportation. The ability for mass transit to be a very valuable part of a mobility system for a city is incredibly important to its future success. So we are really delighted with the great step that Austin took in approving Project Connect a few weeks ago. We think it ensures Austin's long-term successful track record, and we're just delighted to be a very small part of it. On this slide just talks about a couple items that really, from our perspective, demonstrate that mass transit really does catalyze real estate placemaking. Economic value tends to be much greater in projects that have multimodal access. Almost 50% of the new construction taking place around the country today is served by mass transit, which is a great harbinger of the great success that Austin will have. And the other item that's very important to local municipalities and cities is that commercial property values tend to be about 16% higher in those areas that are served by mass transit than those that are not. And of course, from a rateable standpoint, in terms of generating additional tax revenues to serve other public purposes, that type of increase in real estate value is very, very important. And on the next page, a few other items. I talk about the economic impact. But as you heard earlier in the conversation today, the Chamber CEO, Laura Huffman, stated that transportation is the second most requested attribute of site selectors, second only to workforce and talent development. That's an incredibly important point to keep your eye on as you start to move forward with Project Connect. The economic impact of a mass transit system on value creation is fairly significant. In fact, we laid out a couple of items here that for every $1 billion invested in public transportation supports over 50,000 jobs. Every $1 invested in public transportation generates $4 in return. So an incredibly strong driver of job growth, economic and social equity. And we've been a firm believer in that for many, many years. It also has obviously tremendous positive environmental impacts that I think most cities are really beginning to realize, that hidden gem in having a fully fluid and very robust mass transportation system. The personal impact is significant. It increases the time cycle of commuting patterns, increases their efficiency, their predictability, and for particularly people who work in the service industry, it's very important that they have easy access and timely access to their jobs. So to get to Austin, on the next slide, we talk about our Broadmoor development, which is really a very exciting one for our company, and dare say we think for the city of Austin. It's situated along Mopac, right between the Domain and the Charles Schwab campus. It's a 66-acre project, historically known locally as the IBM campus, but we have great plans for it, as we'll show on the next slide. We are reimagining Broadmoor in its totality. Right now, it's about 1.1 million square feet of space, office. Our imagination has taken us to about 7 million square feet of additional space, mixed-use development, transit-oriented, which I'll touch on in a moment. And really the idea is to create a vibrant neighborhood, which is outlined in a little bit more detail in the next slide. So for us, the future of Broadmoor, having gone through the planning and the approval and the technical process to get it ready to go, this office, life science, multifamily, retail, hospitality development will be anchored by a train station and 11 acres of public green space. So the objective is to really create a dynamic mixed-use neighborhood in one of Austin's fastest growing corridors. And our public-private partnership with Cap Metro has been a key part of that. The housing component will include multifamily for rent, as well as a high component of affordable housing, academic space, workspaces of all types, as well as a great retail base to service not only the Broadmoor branded community, but also the community at large. The new Red Line rail station is something that we're really delighted to work on with Cap Metro. It's a true public-private partnership. And with the rapid growth in North Austin, that area has really become the geographic center for the over 2.2 million people who populate the greater city of Austin. The new commuter rail station will truly distinguish Broadmoor as a transit-oriented and legacy project in Austin. It will occupy a landmark location between the Broadmoor development and the Charles Schwab campus, and has easy access to over 26,000 employees who will be within a half-a-mile radius of the train station. So very, very exciting public-private partnership with Cap Metro. And we've learned some of those lessons by working with transit authorities like Cap Metro from a lot of work we've done in other parts of the country. So our last slide relates to our Schuylkill Yards development in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It's again about a $3.5 billion project, a 14-acre, so a much more dense and much more vertical development than Broadmoor, but the same basic thesis. It's located in close proximity to the third busiest train station in the country, as well as being at the nexus for the regional rail corridor for SEPTA, which is the regional rail authority in the greater Philadelphia region. And Brandywine pioneered another private-public partnership with them a few years ago to completely redo a head house station in close proximity to Schuylkill Yards. So to close up the presentation, bold investments in the future are really what differentiates exciting, dynamic, forward-thinking communities from those that are not. So Project Connect is a tremendous opportunity for Austin to move in that direction. We're delighted to play a part of it. And we really do believe at its core that the connectivity, the economic growth, and the social and economic equity that come from well-served areas that are well-served by mass transit are truly, really exceptional opportunities. And we're delighted to participate with Austin. So really, after years of community engagement and technical planning, we're thrilled to be moving forward with our rail station at Broadmoor in partnership with Cap Metro, and looking forward to seeing Project Connect implementation continue. To share more about what that means for our community, in particular for small businesses and job creation locally, I'm delighted to welcome my friend and Cap Metro President and CEO, Randy Clark.
Hey, Jerry, thank you for that. Really appreciate it. And I finally figured out how to work my mute and camera at the same time, so I'm feeling pretty good today. So, but thank you for that, and I really enjoy the partnership that we are working together on Broadmoor. Thanks, Larry, for your sponsorship and hosting this session, and I really want to thank my friend Nuria Fernandez, who is down at VTA in San Jose right at the moment, but she's been a national leader in transit at the FTA, other large properties, and she's just doing such a great job. And she really talked about the federal funding and the relationship with the federal government on our key projects. And I look forward to replicating all the good work she's done in another city to get that federal money back in here to Austin. As we start off, let's talk about Project Connect. It's kind of the big thing that happened a few weeks ago. Obviously, it's a 20-year conversation in this community. I want to thank, I know the mayor was on earlier, the mayor, our board chair, Wade Cooper, the Cap Metro board, city council, all of their leadership throughout the last couple of years to get that plan together, put the ballot together, and go win a campaign to get the community support. I want to thank our Cap Metro and city council staff and all the consultants that worked on this enormous program over the last few years, our key stakeholders. Laura, you and Sean with the chamber are great partners, and appreciate all your partnership on this. Other organizations like the DAA and RICA, et cetera. The list goes on. And I just really want to thank the community. I'm not sure how many community advocates potentially are watching today, but we engaged over 60,000 people during this process, and this is truly a data-driven, community-focused plan. And I'm really proud to kind of present what we've all accomplished together. I want to highlight that Project Connect is not a project; it's a program of projects. And I won't go through this whole slide because there's so many projects, but I want people to really focus that some projects will go soon and some will take a while. Rail projects like the orange and the blue line are very complicated, very heavy infrastructure projects that we are in the NEPA process right now, doing that federal environmental process that will probably take almost 2 years to wrap up. And then we have a large construction window. But we're working with the community. We're going to work very closely with businesses, especially the businesses in the downtown core on our downtown subway. It's going to be critical to coordination and getting that all right with everyone. But we're also working at the same time, while those things take a little longer, on expanded bus service, whether that's Metro Rapid or the Expo line through Maynard Road into East Austin, or Pleasant Valley in Southeast Austin. up to Miller. Those examples, neighborhood circulators, which is our on-demand technology in a bunch of different neighborhoods around the community to get more service to, like say, lower density areas of the city that really still need to get connected to the larger network. We're expanding our Metro Bike program, and we're doing all this with the idea that we're about equity, providing more access to opportunity, and the better access to opportunity allows people to get jobs and healthcare and education. We know we have to deal with climate change and our environmental concerns, so that's why we're going into all electric bus fleet. And of course, all the trains will be electric as well. And that's really about air quality and dealing with our component of climate change, and we're going to build that to the highest standard. And then third is, we all know the pandemic will be over and people are going to be back, and traffic's already fairly well back to normal. And we're a growing community, and we need to help resolve some mobility issues in this community. And we are going to work as fast as we can with the community to get as many projects on the ground to help move our community while we wait even to the larger projects that will be truly a relief valve for so many parts of, main corridors like Guadalupe, Riverside, major corridors like that are currently really experiencing a lot of congestion. These lines, as put together as a network, will really do a lot for congestion relief and moving our community in a more equitable, cheaper way too, right? Cheaper fares, more sustainable way to get around. If we can go to the next slide, please. This is a key slide, and it's about the program sequence. This was what we presented in the summer. The Cap Metro Board and City Council actually integrated this program sequence in quote unquote our contract with the voters. And the idea here is to say we are committed to delivering a set of projects in a certain time frame with the community. So right now we're already working closely, as Jerry mentioned, with a new Broadmoor station. There's a P3 development up there, and we're looking forward to breaking ground soon on that. At the same time, we're working with another partner, which is the MLS soccer team at McCalla. That was a dog picture that rolled in there, but MLS soccer team at McCalla, building that, starting to design to build that new station as well. We're also, as I mentioned, working on our Phase 1 Metro Rapid, which is our Expo line through Maynard Road to the Expo Center in our Pleasant Valley. We're already through the first step of the federal process project, and so now we're into project development. And our early estimates are hoping to get construction breaking ground on that kind of, just after this time next year. So probably December to January 22 to kick off construction on those lines. So aggressively trying to move our bus projects because the community has said there's a schedule, and it is our job to deliver this schedule on time and on budget. We know that there's elements here, though, that are going to take time to put together, and we have to work with the community, and especially businesses and residents along key corridors. And that's what that NEPA process is really so focused on. We're going to do that very extensively starting in January 21, and we're going to have a lot of information on social and on media generally about that. And we'll be asking everyone that watches an event like today to really be a good neighbor, help spread that word. The more voices at the table will lead to a better quality project overall for this community. So as I said, regardless if someone voted for Prop A or didn't vote for Prop A, this is now a decision that the community is moving forward, and we want to make these projects the best projects for the community long term, because these are with us for generations. So we all got to kind of get together, put our best input together, and move the program forward. The last piece I want to highlight there is the anti-displacement investment strategies. And Nuria mentioned the nexus of land use and transportation. Austin and the whole Central Texas region is really coming to that point now as we've grown so much and we're continuing to grow. The realization that there is no such thing as building your way out of congestion. No matter how many lanes we put together, you can go to the Katy Freeway, you cannot build your way out of congestion. We need to have land use and transportation perfectly connected together. We need more people that live, work, and play, so they're living more walkable, sustainable communities, and transit plays a better role in getting people connected. That doesn't mean that there's not going to be any cars. Manhattan moves 7 million people a day on the subway, and there's cars everywhere. We just need a lot more tools in the toolbox and a lot more options for more people, and that's what this kind of program is all about. To do that, though, we need to think about land use, and I know the city is working on zoning and other code issues. But in the meantime, there's $300 million put away in this program for anti-displacement measures. And the city is taking the lead in this section, but we'll be working on an equity scorecard that really helps things like develop policy measures around where land banking should happen, where affordable housing development should be, or maybe even rental vouchers for low income or elderly individuals. We want to build a transit system for everyone in Austin, and that includes individuals that live on these corridors today. So we don't want to price people out of corridors. What we want is to build the corridors, make transit more accessible for those that are there, and encourage even more people to live, work, and play along those corridors to use the transit system. We go to the next slide, please. Talking about jobs, John Hawkinos, the local economist, did an independent economic study for the Project Connect program. And he came out with a whole analysis, and you can see all these documents on our projectconnect.com website. Everything we've done is very open and transparent. But one of the highlights, and Jerry mentioned a little bit too, is the driver of transit infrastructure projects in the economy. So, for every billion, as Jerry mentioned, it's a little over 20,000 jobs. So we actually have it estimated that will create 97,000 local jobs in the Project Connect program. That is a significant driver over the next decade of jobs that stay in this community and continue the economic cycle in the community. One of the components I really want to highlight, though, is the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program. So we'll be doing an event with the Chamber and all of the minority chambers on February 11th called Accelerate. And one of the components we want to highlight is not just the overall opportunities for Project Connect, both Cap Metro today, but Project Connect, all these other projects moving forward, but specifically the DBE program. And we've got to get people in our community engaged in that program. We want them to get actually certified to be DBEs. So over the next decade plus, they'll have the ability to bid or partner and work on these programs. It's a great opportunity. I came out of Boston, and the DBE program is very large, and it's a very good opportunity for small and local disadvantaged business enterprise companies, so minority or women-owned firms, to really have an opportunity to grow, to add staff, add jobs, add economic opportunity. So we're really looking forward to engaging all of our business stakeholders on that, and we appreciate anyone that wants to get the word out on that. The types of contracts will be very wide in scope and wide in duration, so we want to get as many people engaged with us early on in the process as possible. And then I think I have one more slide, and that's about how it's all going to come together. And many may recall that it's a really truly a partnership. I would say we have an innovative funding mechanism, an innovative new transformational plan, and a very innovative governance model. So what this was about was Cap Metro couldn't do this program all by itself. It had limited amount of resources, but it is the federal authority to get the federal money plus the resources that we had available. The city of Austin had a lot of policy goals that really talked about reducing single occupancy vehicles, getting better land and transportation use, environmental goals, and better access to opportunity and equality. So together, this partnership was formed, and that's called now the Austin Transit Partnership. And it's a new board that is an organization with a new 5-person board, and that board is really designed for oversight of design and construction contracts. So regular transit policy and other items stay obviously with Cap Metro. It's a federal authority for that. And then City of Austin obviously runs the city and all of the different components of that. The Transit Partnership is a 5-person board, 1 member of the City Council, 1 member of the Cap Metro board, and 3 community experts, 1 on finance, 1 on engineering, architecture, construction, and 1 on community planning, sustainability planning. And that board will form on December 18th with the next special meeting between the Cap Metro Board and City Council. And from there, the board will be officially incorporated. And then on January 20th, which timing is interesting because that's Inauguration Day, we will have our inaugural meeting of the Austin Transit Partnership and be off to the races on building out all the projects in Project Connect for this community. So with that, I think we're going to go back to Terry, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely, Randy. Thanks
Perfect.
so much. Appreciate
Thanks,
it. So excited to hear about all of these projects, not just the Broadmoor, but also the Cap Metro projects, the Project Connect, that are going to really change our city for the better. I like that. It's great to hear about the affordability package that you all have really thought a lot about that, and engaging those small local businesses to try to help get some of them involved as well. And we're also including a lot of green space in a lot of our building projects as we move forward. So we'll definitely be looking forward to hearing more on as these projects obviously start to take shape here in our community. So now I want to transfer kind of over to the state of transportation update from Sean Cranston. Many of you know Sean for his civic engagement as the 2015, 2016, and 2017 Austin Chamber Chair for Education, and for his current role as Chamber Chair for Regional Infrastructure and Mobility. He's a busy guy. He's also served on and chaired the Chamber's Progress Report Task Force, chaired the Chamber's Transit Task Force, and currently sits on the Chamber Government Relations Council, the Public Safety Task Force, and the Executive Committee and Board of Directors. I don't know how he has time to do all of this. He's also traveled with the Chamber delegation 11, is it 9 times or 11 times, Sean?
It's been 11 times since 2008,
since
Terry.
2008. That's amazing. To study other regions, which is awesome because that's how we get so many of the great ideas that we're going to implement here in Austin and innovate for us here, transportation-wise and education systems. Sean, thanks for being here.
Thank you very much, Terry. And thanks everybody for tuning in today. As Terry said, my name is Sean Cranston. I'm the Vice President and Regional Practice Leader for Land and Site Development at Half Associates. We are a 70-year-old Texas-based employee-owned company operating in 26 offices across 5 states in the Gulf region. And it's my honor to serve as the 2020 Vice Chair for the Chamber Regional Infrastructure and Mobility Committee. I want to thank all of our sponsors and members for giving their time and energy to today's summit. I want to thank you, the listeners, for tuning in today and hearing about all the things happening in our region. It's an understatement to say 2020. Wow, right? This is going to be a year to remember. Despite our current situation, a global pandemic, we've accomplished a lot of things. We've heard a lot of great things here today from our speakers. And it makes me think about about a year ago, when our chair, Judge Enoch, came to me and he said, Sean, I have 3 things I want you and the committee to work on. We want to talk about vehicle mobility. We want to talk about public and mass mobility, and we want to talk about air mobility. So we want to take a few minutes today to grade our paper and see how we did in each of those regions. First of all, I-35 Capital Expressway, getting it funded, making forward progress on driving this. As we heard from Chairman Bugg, in May of this year, the Texas Transportation Commission unanimously approved providing about $4 billion to fund the central section of the IH-35 Capital Expressway project. The hard work of Opportunity Austin and its chairman, Gary Farmer, our mobility committee, and our members, we were able to successfully get all 3 sections of I-35 funded through the central region. It's going to benefit all of Central Texas. I don't have to tell you, this is huge news. I-35 has long been a focus for the chamber. And when the dirt starts turning in 2 short years, 2022, it'll be the first expansion on I-35 in over 50 years. Looking at the second item, 2020, we talked about Project Connect. We could see it starting to take shape after 2 years of planning under the leadership of Randy Clark and Capital Metro Executive, the City of Austin, and others involved in the community and business. We were asked to make a recommendation, and our committee took a 2-step approach. In May, we recommended to the board an endorsement of the system plan, the bits and pieces that make up all of Project Connect. And in July, we recommended endorsement of the tax rate election. The Chamber Board endorsed both the system and the tax rate elections in the months of May and August, respectively. While we recognize the cost of this, we also recognize the cost of doing nothing. You may have heard us say we need to take an all-of-the-above approach to address traffic congestion. It takes all components working in concert in order to ease congestion. This is also a win for economic development, as site selectors, site workforce, and transportation lobbyists tell us that the top number 2 thing in choosing a new location for economic expansion for the company after talent is mobility. They need to know that they have the people in place to do the jobs that are being created, and they need to know they have a system of moving the people to and from where they live and where they work. Moving to the third objective, air mobility. Well, little bit different this year. We had a record-setting year in 2019 for passenger throughput at Austin Bergstrom International Airport, and 2020 was shaping up to be an even bigger year. And then the pandemic hit in March, where we saw 95% reduction in air service. However, through the leadership at ABIA and through the City of Austin, we saw them figure out ways to make things happen, moving cargo, moving other elements through, and using this a bit of a downtime to figure out where we need to go when the people return to the airport. We have a dedicated air service task force led by Doug Driscoll, and through the air service task force, we have redoubled our efforts and will continue working with the airport so that when the world starts flying again, our airline partners will have confidence in Austin. Looking ahead, I'm confident 2021 will be an even bigger year for Austin and Central Texas. We will continue on being the voice of business in many initiatives, including monitoring the continued progress of the City of Austin's 2016 Mobility Bond, the implementation of I-35 construction, the creation and implementation of a program to support Proposition B, active transportation, implementation of Project Connect, creation and implementation for South MOPAC work, and others. So thank you very much for your support. Thank you very much for all you do for us, both our speakers, our sponsors, and our members, for continued support of the Chamber. I must say, to close with this, we are in a unique situation. Our Chamber is very focused on what we do, and we're very blessed to have great partners. I work throughout North America, in both Canada and the United States, and I can tell you that the relationship we have with the city, with the county, and with our partners in the business community and others in this area with the Chamber is unlike anywhere else. From my time volunteering at the Chamber, I can tell you that we need to stand on three legs: transportation, economic development, and education and talent. And when one of those legs is weak, the other two cannot stand. I'm proud and pleased to say that all three legs are strong and that we have a great future ahead of us.
Thank you so much, Sean. What a great time to be in Central Texas and Austin. And it's really impressive to hear how hard so many people have worked through what has been such a challenging year to make sure that these projects get underway. I'm Terry Gruca with KVUE News, and we will continue to cover a lot of these issues as the years go forward. So if any of you who are watching or listening have ideas for us and things we should be doing, please let us know. We have an entire project called Boomtown that I have headed up, and it's been really fun to do those projects, and so we love hearing about them. Here to close out today's event and take us across the finish line is Jennifer Webrand, Chair of the Downtown Austin Alliance. Thanks for being here, Jennifer.
Terry, thank you so much for hosting. It's been a really content-rich and impressive line of speakers. I'm honored to be here. 2020 will be remembered for many once-in-a-generation events, not the least of which are these transportation projects that we've discussed today. All of these will have profound impacts in downtown Austin. Interstate 35 is particularly critical to downtown, which is why we have advocated for well over 20 years for its reconstruction and lowering through central Austin. As a key trade corridor and commute route, we recognize I-35 plays a critical role in the Texas and national economy. But we also recognize that locally, the roadway has divided our community for decades. That is the primary reason we were excited to learn of TxDOT's plans to remove the upper decks and lower I-35 through central Austin. When I-35 is lowered or tunneled, it will open up new opportunities for the land areas above that lowered highway. And that's what we've been working on. During the last year alone, the Downtown Austin Alliance has invested over $300,000 in the I-35 surface project, tapping into the expertise of those who have worked on similar projects nationwide. We are developing a community-wide vision for the surface level improvements, working closely with TxDOT, local businesses, the City of Austin, Campo, Cap Metro, the University of Texas, our neighbors in East Austin, and many others. In February, the Downtown Alliance sponsored a panel of Urban Land Institute experts from across the U.S. to help develop a roadmap for the project, which we termed I-35 Cap and Stitch. TxDOT has already achieved similar projects and demonstrated an ability to work with cities and communities to create incredible spaces over highways, spaces that drive even more economic activity to our great state. One of the most widely recognized examples of this collaboration is in Dallas at the Clyde Warren Park. After hosting the Urban Land Institute panel and working closely with the City of Austin, and many other partners to develop community aspirations and values for the corridor, we are now nearing a critical project milestone. TxDOT kicked off their virtual public scoping meeting as part of the NEPA process and has invited the community to give feedback on the scope of this project. We hope that you will join all of us in advocating for and supporting a future I-35 that reflects the values and aspirations of our community. So please monitor your inbox for an email from the Downtown Austin Alliance in the coming week on how you can best support the future of I-35. And if you're not already signed up, please visit downtownaustin.com to subscribe to our newsletter and updates. The reconstruction of I-35 presents an incredible historical opportunity that we are so happy to be a part of. And we just have one more major event. Please join us next to Austin Business Awards, where we will come together to celebrate the businesses in our region that have managed to accomplish great things, even during this pandemic. Thank you all for tuning in today. Have a wonderful afternoon.